This is Tools for Nomads. Tools for Nomads is an up-close and insightful look into the lives and habits of passionate and creatively prolific people who embrace and cherish the nomadic lifestyle. Brought to you by Top Drawer. As creative professionals, we know the nomadic lifestyle is as much a mindset as it is a way of being. Visit topdrawershop.com or visit one of their dozen-plus meticulously outfitted shops in San Francisco, Los Angeles, Boston, Berkeley, Chicago, and Tokyo. topdrawershop.com. I'm Tom Pollard. I've traveled the world in search of adventure. Since 2001, I've been a member of the Explorers Club. I'm a filmmaker, mountaineer, even a sailor. I've been to the top of Everest and helped build and sailed a ship made of 2.5 million reeds from Chile to Easter Island. I almost got eaten by a mako shark. I've filmed with orcas, elk, bear. From 5-star hotels to the cold, cold ground, I've visited a lot of cool places over the years, but there's a whole lot of places on the globe I've yet to experience. Today's guest has, in her own words, devoted her life to protecting the world's oceans and connect people to it. She's a scientist, an archaeologist, an anthropologist. She studied at Brown University. She lives in Vermont. Eat your heart out, Dartmouth. Rachael Zoe Miller lives for everything water in all its forms. In winter, she's skiing, moguls in particular, or riding her fat tire bike with spikes on it that grip ice and snow. In spring, summer, and fall, she's sailing or wing foiling, which involves handling a two-handed wing with a hydrofoil mounted on a short stand-up paddleboard. She has a 50-ton master captain's license and captains a 60-foot sailing research vessel called the American Promise. Over the last 10 years, her company, the Rosalia Project, has removed more than 1 million pieces of trash from waterways and has inspired tens of thousands of people through direct programs. Rachael is also an inventor of the Cora Ball, the world's first microfiber-catching laundry ball. She's focused on protecting the ocean, specifically addressing the problem of marine debris through cleanup, prevention, through education, embracing innovation and technology, and solutions-based research in urban and coastal waters from surface to the sea floor. She's nuts about water, that is, and even more so about keeping plastic and man-made microfibers out of the water, where it literally kills countless sea creatures, large and small. One of Rachael's early entrepreneurial businesses was giving shipwreck tours with ROVs on Lake Champlain in Vermont. Those are remotely operated vehicles. Yes, there are shipwrecks on Lake Champlain in Vermont. She taught snow kiting and stand-up paddling in addition to that. All these experiences of running businesses of different temperaments led to this current and ongoing endeavor, the Rosalia Project. My recent conversation with Rachael began when I asked how she found her calling in life. And like so many creative and productive people I've met here on the podcast and beyond, I suggested that the path is never without surprising twists and turns. And as we follow our intuition, our heart, somehow, some way, what we're called to do finds us just as much as we find it. Here's my conversation with Rachael Zoe Miller, picking up on the meandering spirit of a college student seeking her calling. But so you were investigating the soul, like the timelessness of existence, and then in so doing you found these beautiful things, and the right people fell into your lap, so to speak, or vice versa. And that's like the essence of it all, man. Like we go, if you just listen and are quiet enough, whatever it is you're meant to be, it appears.
It can do. And then you just have to be willing to, I do often I am a control the controllables, but I'm willing to take a running jump. And, I think a lot of this has started as a running jump. Again, I kind of knew that I had the right stuff on to take the jump, more or less. Didn't know where, and that's happened a few times. And, what you just said is really interesting, because there's sort of a bunch more of the story before we get to like the moment where I realized I'm here to protect the ocean and connect people to it. That also was meandering and didn't necessarily make sense at the time. You went to a kind of a good school and you did really well and you're a kite surfing instructor. Like there were moments, if you kind of just paused everything, where people were confused. I don't think I was ever confused, but
that's it. It's listening to the right voice, and your voice was the clearest one. And because it's especially with youth, my partner is a school teacher and a teacher of, middle school students. And so just imagine what a single doubt to that young boy or girl's dreams can do to one who doesn't have a strong sense of self, who might not have the right parents, or like, don't listen to Johnny, or,
Well, the first time, I think that I only told people what I wanted to be once. Someone asked me, I don't remember the super details, but I remember someone asked me what I wanted to be. I said I wanted to be an astronaut. They looked at me in my glasses and said, you can't, because you have to have perfect eyesight. And so I stopped wanting to be an astronaut, and I never told anyone what I wanted to be ever again when they asked.
Right. Is that true? So you can't be an astronaut if...
Oh, no. It turns out it's not true.
Oh my gosh. Let's look that person up.
Yeah, I don't know.
It could have been worse. I thought they were going to say, there's no women astronauts.
Well, there weren't at the time, for sure. But I would have said I would be the first, type of a thing. As a little kid, I would have done that. But can't do anything about my eyes. Like, I can't be like the first astigmatism, like nearsighted. I can't even see my own hand. Yeah, they were like, you can't. You have to be a fighter pilot first, and you can't do that. So you should think of something else.
Oh my goodness. Doubters beware. Rachael Miller is out
not
to prove you wrong.
Well, no, I'm not. I didn't. I folded. I totally folded.
But you did the right thing. You're like, I'm done telling people my dreams, because that was really a bad experience. Just hearing that, I'm devastated. But so Rachael, tell me about the Rosalia Project, because that's this is really important stuff. And we also have an interview with Valerie Taylor, who was the underwater, scuba photographer, camera person, who inspired Steven Spielberg during Jaws production, and is a devout conservationist in terms of the oceans. And she doesn't have a lot of really good things to say about the status of our oceans. But so what happened? How did you get this project underway? And tell me about it.
So the short catalyst story is that I'd been doing, the company was called Stormboarding, the teaching stand-up adrenaline wind sports, and Lake Champlain Shipwrecks, which was the ROV exploration. And I was learning a very important lesson, and something that my husband and I have been good at is kind of reassessing, doing our own thing, but not just letting it go on forever and like not even being able to eat ramen type thing. We don't need to make gads of money, but we do need to be responsible with what we're doing. And we had sort of put a 5-year limit on any solo business. If it's not really in the black, we'd have to pull the plug. And so what I learned with the shipwrecks is you can have a great product, but it doesn't make a good business. It was great, but I knew it wasn't it, like with a capital I. I knew that. And it wasn't going to be the like long-term thing. It was great in my 30s type deal. So we went, James, myself, and at the time, 2 Newfoundlands, Hickory and Smudge. We went to Matinicus Island off the coast of Maine. There had just been a nor'easter. The little beach next to the place we rented was like knee deep in trash. And I spent the first day of our 3-day vacation, we all just like pulling all the stuff up above the high tide line. And the way I say it is James had my epiphany. It was like, one thing pisses you off, you know, because I don't get super angry about a lot, but one thing pisses you off. It's been that way since we met. It's trash in the ocean. Just let's do something about it. And so, you know, it's like, why don't you do something about it? I was looking for a new thing. And so that's how Rosalia was born. We named it after my great grandmother, for whom I am also named, in order to reserve the right to switch its focus. So Rosalia Project, and then we added For a Clean Ocean. So maybe someday it works on some other problem, but For a Clean Ocean is where we've been firmly planted since that day in October of 2009. And we've had a couple things that set us apart from other marine debris organizations. We have 4 strategies, and one of them is cleanup, but we always collect data, and the other 75% are entirely prevention. Prevention through education, embracing innovation and technology, and doing solutions-based research. And besides that, we work surface to sea floors. Remember, I'm bringing ROV experience with me from the shipwreck. So now I can use the ROVs to understand what especially our urban waters look like, the bottom of our urban harbors. So urban and coastal waters was a focus. We got the spectacular sailboat, the 60-foot sailing research vessel to be our mothership.
Rachael's 60-foot vessel is the American Promise, a cutter that was made famous by Dodge Morgan's fastest solo round-the-world voyage. American Promise acts as the Rosalia Project's mothership during their work addressing issues affecting ocean health, primarily in New England's coastal waters and beyond. American Promise gives Rachael and her team the ability to operate far from shore for extended periods of time. It allows them to focus on something all can agree is a problem: plastics in the oceans, the extent of which still hasn't been fully realized.
There's a lot of parts to the marine debris problem. We work on derelict fishing gear, we work on consumer debris, and we work on a subset of all of that, which is microplastics. And that's led us to some really, really fascinating, horrifying, inspiring projects. And, you know, certainly one of them has to do with microfiber pollution. So this is our clothes breaking up. When we first learned about it back in 2013, it was primarily thought to be a problem related to washing machines. And, you know, we set a bunch of goals there. We said we wanted to see if we could start to stop the problem. We wanted to inspire people in other industries to see what they could do about it, raise awareness. And we wanted to contribute to the science. And that's what led us to sample the entire Hudson River from Lake Tier of the Clouds all the way to Ambrose Light every 3 miles. That the first one we did in 2016, as any good science, or as often happens with science, you answer a little bit of your question and then come up with a whole lot more. And so that's how we got involved with National Geographic. Is the results from our 2016 Hudson River microplastic and microfiber sampling expedition indicated that there's more to the problem than washing machines. And we needed to look at the air, we needed to look at the soil, we needed to look at the whole water column. And we went back with National Geographic support in 2019. And concurrent to all of this, we developed the Cora Ball. So the Cora Ball is a microfiber catching laundry ball. You put it in the wash and it twirls around with your clothes and it helps tangle up microfibers that are breaking off your clothes. It is happening in the wash. It is also happening in the dryer and while we wear our clothes. And the Coraball helps collect it before it can be part of the effluent. And whether you live in a place like us up a mountain with a septic system and leach field, or you're directly on municipal water, keeping the fibers from our clothes out of the municipal system, the water system, or your septic tank and leach field is valuable. It does a couple things. It protects downstream. It means that this stuff isn't bioavailable for sea creatures to ingest. It causes multitude of harms from chemical to physical. And it eases up some pressure on both your septic tank system and the wastewater treatment plants. We're trying to inspire people to understand what their role might be in helping these problems, not just microfiber, but consumer debris or even fishing gear. So yeah, been fun.
Wow. Amazing. This is so, it's fascinating. So I'm looking at this, kind of the page, if you will, on National Geographic that talks about your, being an expedition scientist. And it says that your Rosalia project removed 1 million pieces of trash from waterways. And that probably is, I bet there's a lot more than 1 million pieces of trash in the waterways and oceans. So is there a way to broaden this to whatever you're doing to actually remove that? And how do you remove the trash? What is it?
I think whatever happens, the removal needs to happen concurrent to the prevention. For me personally, I am spending far less time working on cleanup than I am on prevention. And Rosalia project, I would say, we have a chunk where we are all about going to remote islands in the coast of Maine and cleaning them up while collecting data that helps prevent it from happening in the first place. In fact, on Saturday, we're all off to clean 6 different sites around Burlington, and then we're going to bring all the stuff to Church Street Marketplace, and we're going to do a public sort. So even people that don't help can see what we picked up and see the food wrappers, the plastic bottles, now freaking masks, and all that stuff that we're picking up off the ground. So people just, it's a good reminder to mind your waste. And I think that's the perfect way this goes. The thread of what I've been doing my whole life is connecting people. So there's educating people about it. So knowing something from like a factual academic perspective is important. To know that there's 8 million tons of plastic waste deposited into the oceans every year, that's important. But then there's also I love to go wing foiling on Lake Champlain. Or what do you love? You're mountains, you love to climb humongous mountains? And you love that, and you don't want that place trashed. So, it, you'll love it, you'll protect it. I think that's why 75% of our strategies are prevention. We're not ignoring the cleanup, and the cleanup provides us the best photos and stuff, but it's the prevention for me that is both the most elusive, but also the most satisfying.
You're listening to my 2021 interview with scientist and oceanographer, clean ocean advocate Rachael Zoe Miller of the Rosalia Project. So Rachael, you have traveled extensively. You've been from sleeping on a beach to, wherever you need to do your work or your research or your play and training. Could you tell me a little bit about how, what your habits are working at home, and then when you're kind of out in the field, like how do you are you a laptop computer person and wherever that goes, or does it change from work to home in terms of when you're in the field, your habits and how you get things done?
That's a great question. I would say not really. I'm on a laptop whenever. I mean, I have a nice screen now since like the pandemic, but I don't need it. So laptop and phone, which I appreciate both. I generally don't curse cell phones because they enable me to get out. I think it's the best thing ever. I'm an early riser, which also helps. So I can get up, get work done, and then be ready for whatever part of the day I am needed for. So sometimes that has to do with daylight. Sometimes that has to do with weather. Sometimes it has to do with sort of wind, as opposed like doing things because it's raining or doing things because it's not raining. So I love that there's the technology can allow me to be detached. Yeah, I am. I'm happy to work kind of anytime, but I definitely am best think working in the morning, talking in the afternoon, and I like to be active anytime at all. Like I love morning missions. Sometimes it's nice just to be out in the water at the hottest part of the day. I started evening mountain biking in the snow out of home. Like just if I was busy all day, I would just, so here I like to ski. So I like to alpine ski. I like to skate ski, Nordic ski, not very fast. I have to like pull over and pant, but I love it. And then my husband and I both enjoy fat biking with the spikes on the wheels on the ski trail, like on the Nordic trails.
So that's it. That's how you kind of find your inspiration. As a researcher, if that's fair to call you a researcher, but obviously you are because you need to. But you're out there gathering data and sharing it and recording it. How on earth do you get all that done? And like, say you're on your ship and you're going down, or you're somewhere on the Hudson River or in the bay, and it's pouring rain, and so how's that work? Seriously, like does it shut you down, or are you like, nope, this doesn't stop me? Is it an umbrella, or do you just have a wax pencil?
I think one of the most important traits of for people who do expedition outdoor things, but in particular outdoor science, like field work, or to some extent even running outdoor sports or outdoor things like that, to develop, one of the most important traits to develop is a kind of have a plan A, B, C, D, at least, to be cool with moving across plans and to control the controllables, but be ready to change. So know what you can't control. So we look at weather. We do a lot of looking at the weather. What is going to happen tomorrow? So make sure that our plan A is one that is compatible with the reality that we are likely to face. But then to say, okay, that doesn't work because it may do this. We're going to have to do this. I also think the planning of this stuff in the front end has to accommodate the vagaries of, or I'll say the necessity of change, because certainly the Northeast is one of those places where you're like, wait 5 minutes and the weather changes. They probably say that in New Hampshire as well as Vermont.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. And we front load. That's another trick that has been really helpful for us, is push when the going's good, because you don't know when you're going to get it that good again. So those kind of attitudes, I think, can be translated. And even today, I brought my wing foiling equipment, but I also brought a surf ski, which is human powered. It's like a really fast sit on top kayak. So if there wasn't enough wind, my drive into Burlington would have still been worth it. I still would have gotten out on the lake. I still would have gotten out and had some fun, motion and exercise. And I, just kind of ready for it not to go the way I expected.
Right on. So when you, like, if we can call it on expedition, if you're on if any extended trips, like you obviously need your scientific equipment, or at least the tools that you gather samples with. And so that's important. And I'd love to hear just a little mini snippet of what that is? And then outside of that, what do you bring? Like, I mean, are you like, I wear one t-shirt for a month and that's the way, and then I jump in the water when I can, or, you know, what are
Yeah.
you like, or do you have 6 suitcases, or you probably don't have the luxury of doing that?
No, that's a great question. For the boat has just by necessity, I can pack real light. Is yeah, I know I'm gonna jump in the water with my clothes on because I'm hot and I know that what I'm wearing will dry. We also tend to all wear the same t-shirt for a couple of reasons. One, because we're a team and it's the uniform, but we're also choosing our clothes based on their potential contribution to our samples, because we're looking at things like microplastic and microfibers, and we want to make sure that we can identify them. So in the future, don't be surprised if you see Rosalia Project crew on microparticle expeditions wearing day glow, because we have learned recently how much our clothes are contributing, and wearing something unusual will speed up the processing, because we can just discount all the orange day glow as coming from the researchers and not as potential.
That is cool.
But it's interesting. It really is. We are showing that field work, people who are doing the field work are actually potentially contributing quite a bit to the samples if they're not following really strict anti-contamination protocols. And they're actually still contributing a fair amount even when they are.
Yeah.
Why contribute more anthropogenic fibers to the environment than you have to? So we've learned a lot of really interesting things.
Help me understand. So, for the people that are listening right now, I'm not making any presumptions about what they're wearing, but I'm thinking the majority of them are wearing something, unless we have some naked listeners with us today. But what are our clothes? I'm wearing a cotton shirt, cotton pants. I have no socks on. I have like kind of like athletic underwear that you kind of work out in. And that, other than a leather belt and this hat, am I contributing to this problem right now just by what I'm wearing?
Yeah. So everybody is. So a good way to just think about this is everyone who washes and dries clothes is part of the microfiber pollution problem. It's hard truth, but that is the truth. Now, everyone who washes and dries clothes can be part of the solution to reduce how much is ending up in our environment. And the reality is again, that I have a very hard time buying clothes right now. And that is because I don't want any more. I like afraid of how I'm going to get rid of the ones I've got. If they're not Patagonia, what do I do with them? You know, Patagonia is one of the best at, they'll give you money for your old clothes and sell them to other people, the ones that are in good position or good shape. They'll recycle the ones that have stains. They'll donate the ones that may not have value in their worn wear program, but they have value to someone. They're not stained, but they can go that way. And that gives me hope. And so Patagonia has funded Rosalia Project just in the interest of transparency, not me personally, but we've also had Patagonia materials engineers and some of their just spectacular people on board American Promise, one for each of our expeditions on the Hudson, which is amazing, as part of their own internal volunteer program where they pay employees to go and then they give them to organizations like ours. If I am going to buy new clothes, it's probably where I'm going to buy them. Low shed is a factor. There's an organization called the Microfiber Consortium that just yesterday launched this amazing blueprint and roadmap for understanding textiles better in the context of, if we understand the ones that are breaking more easily, we can make them more resilient. If we understand the ones that aren't breaking, we can understand why and repeat that. And they're bringing in both brands as well as textile manufacturers. That's a really good news right there. Think of being able to choose your clothes, knowing what their kind of shed quotient is. So I can go to see with clothing that I know balances low shed with, if it does shed, what's it putting out there?
Last question. What would be your tips for someone who's going to go out, whether it's on expedition or 2 days on the road, even if they're staying in a hotel? What are Rachael Zoe Miller's tips for, if you will, life on the road? And that, when I use the word road,
watery road. For me, life is easier when you can find your stuff. For me. So there's a couple items that I have found shockingly more useful than I would have expected. So one was packing cubes, but I leveled it up recently to, I think it's just a diaper bag, but so it's waterproof with 2 zippered pockets, and all your wet stuff just stays, it's on its own. It doesn't get the rest of your bag or anything wet. So useful. The other very specific item is I call it a shmata, which would be like Yiddish for just like a sack. Like if my grandmother would have called like some shapeless dress I'm wearing, why are you wearing that shmata? But it's basically a changing robe. It's a towel with a hood, like a big, huge poncho for adults. That's made out of towel, and you can get changed under it. It can be your towel. You can sit on it so that you don't get your wet self all over everything. And the other thing is a multi-USB thing so that you can share plugs, not just with your own stuff, but with other people who have already taken the only plug in wherever it is that you need to be. That is one of my, I don't travel anywhere without, it's like a little, it's not that big. It's got 4 USBs. I think now would be good probably to have one that's 2 USBs and 2 USB-Cs. But yeah.
You're a team player. Let's just put it that way. You're a team player.
It's a little selfish. It's more like, hey, would you share your plug so I can plug my thing into? We'll plug yours in as well. Yes.
Oh, under the veil, it sounds like innocuous, but there's a, little.
I got to charge my phone. Yeah, exactly.
Rachael Zoe Miller has presented at venues worldwide, including on the TEDx stage and at the Explorers Club. She's certified hundreds of people to be sailing instructors, even trained Navy SEALs to find unexploded mines using underwater robots. Pretty cool stuff. Rachael and her team have received multiple awards and recognition, including an award for the use of ROVs to find and remove marine debris, being named an Ocean Exemplar by World Ocean Observatory, and winner of the most innovative idea in microplastics from Think Beyond Plastic. And if you're interested in the Cora Ball, the microfiber catching laundry ball, which works in any washing machine, I'll provide links in the episode notes. Thanks for visiting Tools for Nomads, an up-close and insightful look into the lives and habits of passionate and creatively prolific people like Rachael Zoe Miller, who embrace and cherish the nomadic lifestyle. Tools for Nomads is brought to you by Top Drawer. At Top Drawer, nomadism isn't simply about being on the move, it's about loving and living life, where the things we carry directly impact our productivity, our well-being, and even our identity. Top Drawer combines the quality and craftsmanship of our grandparents' generation with the drive for independence, function, and stylish sustainability. It all results in a collection of tools curated from around the world that help you do your best work wherever you are. Visit topdrawershop.com or visit one of their dozen-plus meticulously outfitted shops in San Francisco, Los Angeles, Boston, Berkeley, Chicago, and Tokyo. topdrawershop.com. Thanks for visiting. I'm Tom Pollard. See you next time on Tools for Nomads.